Greetings everyone. All right, time for our next video. This is going to be nutritional basics. So looking at nutrition, talking about our macronutrients and our micronutrients. All right. So as far as the macro and micro are concerned, what we have are macronutrients that are calcified because they give us calories and energy. And we have micronutrients that are going to be assistive in their function. So we start out with our traditional three macronutrients: carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrates are going to be found in things like wheat, barley, cereals, breads, rices, bananas, things like that. Mainly, this is a source of energy, and the energy is going to be eventually found in the source of glucose. All right. So our functionality is to get energy out of this. Deficiencies, if we are going to find deficiencies, we're going to see protein, energy, malnutrition, right? And something like marasmus and Kwashiorkor syndromes. Also, we can have constipation from inadequate fiber intake if we are not taking in insoluble and soluble fiber. Proteins are going to be from sources like animals, animal fat, animal meat, eggs, milk, dairy products, things like that. We can also see plant sources, although sometimes they're incomplete. Things like lentils and beans, peanuts, and chickpeas. Function is more so for building and repairing and processing things. All right. So we do mainly building and repairing of cells, fighting infection for antibody production. The last ditch effort is producing energy. If we don't have carbohydrates or fat available, we'll use proteins to make energy out of that pathway. If we have a deficiency, we can see poor mood healing, impaired immune functionality, and also our hair could be easily plucked. Fats or lipids, this is going to come mostly from animal and vegetable oils, right? So animal fats, like things we find in meat, lard, butter, things like that. Vegetable oils, milks, creams, avocados, nuts, things like that, right? Main thing is going to be to give us energy and fatty acids to use in the synthesis of things like cholesterol and cell membranes. Also is going to be how we absorb our fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. Deficiency is going to be something like dry and scaly skin, poor wound healing, and we can also see marasmus, which is wasting away of tissue. So those are our three macronutrients. Carbohydrates give us 4 calories per gram. Proteins give us 4 calories per gram. Fats give us 9 calories per gram of energy. Starting with our micronutrients. Vitamin A, this is going to be efficiency, very important for efficiency of vision, maintaining epithelial tissue like the skin, growth of bones and teeth, and also immunity and reproduction. We're going to find this in things like liver, eggs, butter, milk, also vegetables, especially yellow pigmented ones like carrots, pumpkin, and squash, pigmented fruits like mangoes, and green leafy vegetables. Next is going to be vitamin D. Vitamin D is produced by the action of the sun on the skin. Also, we can get it from dietary sources like milk, dairy sources, breast milk, butter, margarine, and mayonnaise. Function is to facilitate calcium and phosphorus absorption in the intestines. Also, we are going to be able to maintain bone formation, right, and also tooth formation. Deficiency leads to rickets in children and osteomalacia or degrading bones in adults. Vitamin E is going to be an antioxidant functionality. Okay, it has functions and antioxidants, also contributes to hemoglobin synthesis for red blood cells. We find it in vegetable oils and whole grain cereals. Vitamin K is going to be a blood clotting cascade cofactor, so it's going to help the coagulation, synthesizing prothrombin, which is necessary for our blood clotting. It's going to be synthesized by plants and also by bacteria in the intestine. So we are able to produce this endogenously to a degree. Vitamin B, we have B complex, right? We have vitamin B1, which is thiamine. Vitamin B6, which is, B2 is actually riboflavin, and B3 is niacin. So for B1, this is going to be a cofactor in the energy production, especially in oxidative phosphorylation. Also works for appetite promotion and support of our central nervous system. Find this in green vegetables as well as in carbohydrate sources like cooked maize, corn, whole grain cereals, things of that nature. Riboflavin is going to be used in metabolism for all three macros, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Also helps to synthesize corticosteroids and produce red blood cells. You find this in animal products like milk, meat, liver, fish, and eggs. Right? Vegetable products like green leafy vegetables, cereals, and yeast. B3 or niacin we find mostly in meat sources and in nuts. It is going to help with energy production, just like the others. Also provides skin, healthy skin, and carbohydrate, fat, and protein metabolism. Vitamin B6, which is peroxidine. This is going to come from animal sources, all right, like meat, liver, pork, fish, and milk. Vegetable sources, find this in heavy green vegetables like broccoli and spinach. It's going to assist in protein and fat metabolism. Also, conversion of glycogen in the liver and the muscle tissue to glucose to help mobilize those energy stores. B12 is cyanocobalamin or cobalamin. This is going to be incredibly important in the synthesis of red and white blood cells. So this is going to be a source of anemia if we have a deficiency here. It's known as pernicious anemia. All right, so vitamin B12 going to come from our meat and fish and dairy sources. The cobalamin is synthesized by bacteria in plants, so we are going to get that cobalamin enzyme from the root nodules of legumes and things like that and beans. Vitamin C, which is also known as ascorbic acid, this is going to come from acidified fruits, things like citrus fruits, oranges, tangerines, grapefruits, mangoes, tomatoes, bananas. Also in green vegetables, cauliflowers. We get it a little bit from animal foods such as milk. This is going to help with calcium concentrations. Right? It helps the body use calcium and other nutrients to build up things like bones and blood vessels. Helps to form collagen and connective tissue, increases absorption of iron, increases resistance to infection, acts as an antioxidant and a protein metabolizer. For folic acid, this is going to be involved in synthesis of red blood cells, maintenance of the nervous system, and metabolism of amino acids. This is incredibly important in things like pregnancy because we are actively synthesizing DNA and making those proteins. So we need a high degree of folic acid there. We find it in animal foods like liver, eggs, poultry, and meat. Also in green vegetables like spinach. Moving into our micronutrients, these are going to be our minerals. So we finished up with our vitamins there. Minerals such as iron. Iron is going to be incredibly necessary for oxygen transportation as it forms the heme group in a red blood cell. It's also needed for absorption of vitamin C. We find this in high concentrations in things like shellfish, red meat, to a little bit lesser of a degree in things like eggs and legumes. Iodine is going to be important in thyroid hormone synthesis. So for growth and development is very important. Protein synthesis, energy metabolism, development of proper functioning brain and nervous system. Find iodine in things like seafood, seaweed, also in iodized salt. Most of the salt that we have now is iodized. Zinc, this is going to be very important in immune function. It's going to protect the immune system. It's also needed for proper digestion, wound healing, vitamin A metabolism, normal development of male organs, and it's a component of insulin. You get this from things like yogurts, seafood, shellfish, oysters, liver, eggs. Plant sources include green peas, whole grain cereals, barley, and cabbage. Calcium, this is going a long way towards things like bone and teeth formation, also normal functioning of the heart contractility, and normal functioning of muscular contractility. It's also going to assist in blood clotting and maintenance of blood pressure. Find calcium in dairy sources like milk, yogurts, and cheeses. Also can find it in leafy vegetables like broccoli, legumes, peas. Copper. Copper is going to play a role in enzyme formation. It's going to influence the absorption of iron and the mobilization as well. We're going to get copper from things like shellfish, liver, kidneys, and raisins. Copper is reduced by milling, grinding, and cooking in water, so the affected environmental factors such as the type of fertilizer. Selenium This is going to be a micronutrient that comes in a pretty small quantity. It's going to prevent oxidation and breakdown of fat. Also helps as an antioxidant. We get this from sources like brown rice and nuts, mushrooms, asparagus, right? Onions, garlic, egg yolks, things that are uncooked or unboiled. Magnesium is going to be a cofactor for muscle synthesis and nerve function. So synthesis of proteins and fats and building up of bones and teeth. Fluoride is going to be a key component in the enamel of teeth. So it's a protective mechanism for the bones and for the dental tissues, protects against tooth decay, and also assists in wound healing. Phosphorus, going to get in all energy producing reactions. It's going to also be there for calcium metabolism and to form the calcium salts in bone. Comes from milk and milk products as well as beans and legumes. Sodium and potassium are the two most common or most quantitated minerals in the body. Sodium is going to be in a lot of different things. It's a primary regulator of fluid in the body and maintenance of blood pressure as well. It's going to come from things like table salt and canned soups and everything like that that has preservative. Potassium, this is going to be also important in nerve regulation, muscle contraction, and maintenance of blood pressure. Going to get potassium from things like fruits like oranges, mangoes, papayas, legumes like spinach, legumes, beans, spinach, cabbage, carrots, tomatoes, things of that nature. All right, so lastly, a couple of conversions here. If we're looking at metabolic rate, especially things like basal metabolic rate in people, we have a set calculation that we do for this. So equations to estimate the basal metabolic rate for the body is going to be based on what the person's body weight is and their age. So for instance, for males, see between 18 and 30 years old, we're going to take 15 kilocalories per day and multiply that by the weight in kilograms and add 692 to that. Conversely, for females, we're slightly less, right? 14.7 kilocalories per day times weight in kilograms plus 4.96, or sorry, 496. Then if we want to increase by activity level, all right, if we're looking at a metabolic calculation that includes the amount of physical activity for the day, if we go from light to moderate to heavy, see that we go from anywhere from 50% to a 100% increase in that basal metabolic rate to get to your total caloric expenditure. So our average daily energy requirements, here we're looking at children ages 1 to 18, right? Energy requirements are going to go up as we age because we are increasing in our metabolic capacity as well as our body's size, muscle mass, and activity level. So by the time we reach age 18 or so, kilocalories per day requirement for girls is around 2,500. For boys, depending on activity, it's going to be up around 3,400 or so. If we are looking at additional energy requirements, especially things like for pregnant and lactating women, we're going to see additional energy daily requirements at full activity and reduced activity. At full activity, we're going to add almost 300 calories onto that per day. At reduced activity, maybe 200. The additional daily requirements for lactating women are going to be even higher. For the first 6 months and the second 6 months, it's going to be about an average of 500 kilocalories a day more than the normal value. All right, so our energy requirements here, okay, see the average daily energy requirement for infants, right? It's going to be relatively low comparatively to aging as we get older, right? You see the comparison between 12-month-old to even after 2 or 3 years, we've almost doubled the amount of calories that we need. Looking at our protein intake, right? Average adult is going to be 0.75 grams per kilogram. For a pregnant woman, we want to increase that by about 6 grams a day. For a lactating woman, this can go up almost to 16 grams per day. All right, that was micro and macronutrient profiles and a nutrition tutorial on that. Thank you all for joining me. Please like and subscribe to the channel Twisted Science, also the Patreon, patreon.com/twistedscience for more content. And I will see you all for our next video.